Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machin Leira online smicha. We know that the barer is one of the things that are prohibited on Shabbos, and the barer is a complicated halacha. I want to talk about one specific area in the malacha of barer. In the big Shulchan Aruch, Simen Shin Yud Tes Seif Tes Zayin, the Mechaber says, Mayim sheyesh bahem teilayim, water that has worms in there, or it has to be filtered. Says the big Mechaber, mutar l'shtoisam al yidei mapa b'Shabbos. If you want to drink that water, you're allowed to put a cloth over the pitcher and drink the water from it. Why? Says the Mechaber, the loishayich boirer or meshamer, because the malacha of boirer or meshamer is only applicable. The real barter is when it's not done during the eating. It's done before the Suda. It's done as an act of separation. When it's done as an act of separation on its own, then it's barter. But in Bishash Se'iya is if, however, you're doing it as you're drinking, it's separating, and it's separating the psoilus from the oichel. In this case, it's separating the worms or whatever creatures are in the water from the water. Ein zeh me'ei malacha. There is no, it's not similar to the malacha of barer umutar. And that's why it's permitted. So obviously, you know where we're heading. The question would be, with a pitcher that has a filter in it, and it's filtering the water so the water comes out clean. Would that be permitted on Shabbos? Or, an interesting discussion, you have a big bottle, and to make sure that nothing dirty comes into your mouth, you want to use a straw. So because it's a straw, it won't suck up anything big, anything schmutzig. Would that be considered an issue of barer? So the Achrayim Taka say that a straw is no problem, because when are you sucking on the straw? You're sucking on it not as an act of breira. You're sucking on it as you want to drink. It's derech shia. If it's derech shia, if this is the way you drink the food, this is the way you eat the food, there is no mlacha of butter. So that's what the Achrayim say about a straw, about a pitcher that has a filter. In Shabbos Kahalacha from Rabbi Farkash, Perik Yudalid, he is in the Biurim. He challenges this. He's not so sure about the pitcher and the filter. Why is that different than the straw? Because, as mentioned before, any act that's done as you're drinking is taka, not an act of brera. That's an act of eating. But the filter, if the filter is happening, if it's filtering it before you're drinking, there is a moment earlier where it's filtering, it's doing the filter of the water. Maybe the fact that it's happening before your mom is drinking it would be a problem. So he's not sure if you could use those pitchers. An interesting discussion where this could apply to also barer. We talk about water that's dirty. You always could think about a mikva. What happens if you're makpid to go to mikvah on Shabbos, which a Chassidish Yingaman is, and you go into the mikvah on Shabbos and it's dirty? Let's say there's hair, let's say there's schmutz. Is there a problem to move the hair and the schmutz away, the dirt away, so you should be able to toivel in comfortable water? So, from one hand, you could say that these people who are makpid to go in the mikvah will go in fire and wasser. For them, mikvah is so important that it could be muddy and schmutzig and dirty. They're going to go, so they're not makpid on the things that are in the mikvah. If they're not makpid, that's not called separating, because whatever will be there. Doesn't, even if they separate and they move them aside, is not really soilus mitoich oichel. As we find that if a person doesn't really care to drink unfiltered water, to filter it wouldn't be a problem, because for him it's good as is. Nevertheless, to push aside the shmutz in the mikvah is a question. And let me explain the question. To use the what do they call not the shovel, to use the filter, the paddle or whatever it is that they put into a pool or put into a mikvah to drain out just the bad, to filter just the hair, then you're using a keli, a misamenes, that's miyuchet for this. It's miyuchet for taking out shmutz, and it's only the shmutz is coming out. That's taka a problem. But if you're not using that real keli, if you're pushing it aside with your hands, the Ktsois HaShulchan says that's for sure not a problem. But even if you're not using your hands, you're using a keli, but you're not using the keli hamiyuchad lekach, and you're not only scooping out the shmutz, you're scooping out some water with it. It's very similar to the halacha of when you find a bug in a bowl of soup, that you're allowed to, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you're allowed to scoop out as long as you're not taking the pesoilus by itself.